Well, hello, and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining. See, folks are still joining from the waiting room. We're so excited to be having this conversation today. Welcome, welcome. All right. Well, welcome everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. Feel free, if you're just joining us, to introduce yourself. You can tell us who you are, where you're coming from, and maybe your soundtrack for the day. What's the song that's stuck in your head, rattling around in there, if you want to share. I'm going to jump right in. I'm Mariel Reed. I'm the CEO and founder of Pavilion, and I'm really excited for today's conversation that we've put together with Sourcewell. And as you all know, we'll be focusing our discussion around how entities are building stronger partnerships between procurement and end users within their agencies. And as folks on this call probably know, department end users want to get what they need quickly, but procurement professionals need to safeguard compliance. And sometimes it feels like those goals can be at odds. So we're coming together today to talk about how both sides can work better together. And in today's conversation, we're really going to be hearing from both procurement professionals and department end users on what they've tried, what's working, and some practical tactics that hopefully you can take back to your organizations too. A few logistics to just get out of the way up front. Yes, today's conversation will be recorded, and we'll share the recording with you afterwards, so no need to frantically take notes. And then if you do have questions, which I hope many of you will, or comments that you want to share, you can use the Q&A functionality in Zoom, and our panelists will be able to chime in and offer their thoughts throughout the conversation. And we'll also have a little bit of time to dig in and answer some of those questions at the end of the conversation as well. Now, we've worked with Sourcewell to invite the University of South Florida and the City of Baltimore to speak about their procurement and department collaboration. And I'm really grateful to everyone who's joining and Sourcewell's collaboration here. So let's kick it off with a quick round of intros. Can each of you briefly just introduce yourselves and your organizations? Bree, why don't we start with you?
Sure, happy to. Hi, everyone. I'm really excited to have the opportunity to be a part of this panel today. I'm Bree Matier. I'm the Director of Procurement for the University of South Florida in beautiful Tampa. I enjoy reading contracts by candlelight and facilitating long solicitations for campus at the beach. And when I'm not analyzing data, you'll find me exploring solutions to drive efficiencies and bring value to the university. Spread across Tampa, Sarasota, and St. Pete, USF's 3 campuses are home to approximately 55,000 students. We have a D1 athletics program. We're also an R1 research institution, and just a few years ago, we're inducted into the American Association of Universities. We are part of a full procure-to-pay department, reporting up through the CFO. We manage roughly $400 million in addressable spend annually with our team of 10 procurement agents, contract administrators, and category managers. So happy to speak with you all today.
Awesome. Thanks, Bree. Julie, why don't we kick it over to you?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm so excited to be here with you today as well. Julie McCoy, I'm Director of Budget and Finance here at the University of South Florida. I think Bree gave an outstanding introduction to USF. I work closely with her and her team as a department end user and procuring goods and services for our area and department. So we service quite a few departments for the university, over 20 departments within our area. So working closely with her and her department is extremely important to our areas being successful.
Awesome. Thanks, Julie. Adam, over to you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Adam Manny, and I'm the Chief Procurement Officer for the great city of Baltimore, Charm City. City of Baltimore in Maryland, we're the largest city in Maryland. We have about a little over 600,000 constituents here. While we don't have D1 organizations, we do have both the Ravens, thank you very much, go Flock, and even more importantly is we have the Orioles, and it takes every ounce of energy not to be bad and leave my office and walk maybe a half mile to Orioles Park at Camden Yards and go see a game and try and work from there. So it is baseball season, so go O's. The Office of Procurement is, we are in a rebuilding phase. We're undergoing a revitalization of procurement. We are changing the way we do business, how we interact with our clients internally and externally, and I'm really glad to be here to discuss that.
Thank you. Birgay.
Hello, everyone. My name is Berke Atilla, currently the Director of Department of General Services for the City of Baltimore. One might call us Department of Generic Services because no one usually knows exactly what we do. We do everything from fleet to energy to the day-to-day facilities management to buildings from ground up. So we are, as you can imagine, always in constant conversation with the Bureau of Procurement, and myself and Adam spent a lot of time. Most of my career has been in public service, and like any good government survivor, I've worn many hats or masks depending on the day. Actually an engineer by training, but somewhere along the way, I became a budget analyst, a CFO, a CHRO, and now a department director. So what I say that because I've been on both sides of the house, where I worked in central governance like Adam, where I was helping to shape policy citywide, whether it was budget or HR, but I've also had to live the consequences of these policies, executing budgets, hiring staff, delivering services under the tight timelines and tighter scrutiny. That dual perspective has taught me one thing, that style matters. How procurement leads, how they engage with us, departments, and can either open doors or create bottlenecks. Now that I'm back on again upside, I really have value strong collaboration with my central governance team, including procurement, because when we work together, when we're aligned, whole system works better, especially for the communities we serve. And to wrap it up, I'm really glad to be here today to share some of the lessons, hear your stories, and keep learning together.
Awesome. Thank you. Last but certainly not least, Brett, you want to take it away?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Brett Barr. I'm an account executive with the government accounts team at Sourcewell. I've been with Sourcewell for about 2 years. I've been working with and supporting public institutions for the better part of a decade prior to my time at Sourcewell. In my role specifically, I support participating agencies within higher education. So working with colleges and universities, their procurement teams to help them achieve purchasing success and empower their purchases there at their campuses. In fact, I'm coming to you today from a conference room at the beautiful Florida Atlantic University campus in Boca Raton, a few miles away from my home in Minnesota. But they were nice enough. I met with the team this morning. In fact, we talked about this topic for a while and how we could better collaborate with end user departments. So happy to be a part of this panel and providing some context from the cooperative perspective. So thank you.
Awesome. Great. Well, and as I mentioned earlier, I'm Marielle. I'm the CEO and founder here at Pavilion. And I started Pavilion inspired and maybe equally frustrated from my time with the city and county of San Francisco. And before that, I was an early employee at a tech startup that's since gone public. And so it's been really fun kind of putting those two universes together of like public service and technology. And Pavilion simplifies procurement by helping entities find the easiest way to procure what they need. So we want to make sure nobody ever has to start a procurement from scratch. And what we do is we help you find contracts you can piggyback on. So you can think of us a little bit like a Google Flights or Kayak, but for shareable contracts, where we're putting contracts together from national and regional purchasing cooperatives, states, and local entities, all in one place to help you quickly figure out which ones meet your needs. And then we also help you get supplier quotes. So we have a team that will support follow-up or supplier research for you as needed. And then finally, we simplify compliance for departments by helping them figure out the fastest way they can get what they need compliantly as well. And we do all of that for free for public agencies. So on that note, and with those intros, let's dive into the meat of our discussion today. Okay, so first we want to hear about some of the challenges that procurement and their departments face. So I'm going to start with the procurement perspective. So for those on our panel today from the procurement side, can you share a little bit about what are the biggest hurdles or misconceptions that you face as you start working with a department? And Bree, I'll pick on you again to kick us off.
Sure. There's a lot. All jokes aside, I think the biggest challenge, though, when I really think about it, was knowing where to begin. I guess rather than listing any issues or boundaries or hurdles, I'll just tell you about kind of our journey. We're a pretty small team in a big school, and so when we started looking out at the landscape, we were really faced with questions around, how are we currently managing to source all that we buy, and how dependent are we really on using exemptions, single source purchasing, looking at low dollar purchases, and how can we drive more competition within our agency? And the answer to that was we need to be more proactive with our approach. So, we led to a series of questions. The next one being that surrounding the size of the elephant that we had to eat, right? How do we break the landscape of USF down into bite-sized chunks that make sense without overwhelming ourselves and getting, too bogged down with questions and the day-to-day. So we started with our data and we really looked at the highest levels to see where our money was going. And that led us to our facilities and our IT departments. And then we really had to start to ask, well, who are the people that we need to be talking to? And it was important for us to not just send an email to a listserv or to, any employee in their organization. We really wanted to find someone who had the right combination of decisional authority and who could hold influence over that department as well. And once we identified that person or group of people, we had to then decide on our approach. What would we present to them? How would we do it? What data or knowledge did we have to possess in order to show our value? So we really had to immerse ourselves in trying to understand the role of their department and what their motivations were and what was important to them. So, and putting ourselves in their shoes of how they would see procurement. We needed to take into account the history of the relationship. It was very policey, it was very transactional. So this was something very new for them. So we took a look at their top suppliers. We tried to understand some of their key business resources, and we really tried to gain an understanding of their business processes. And when we did reach out for those first meetings, it was a real mixed bag of response. Some people were really excited to meet with us and see what we could support we could provide. But really the majority, in my opinion, at least, were pretty apprehensive, or they just didn't respond at all. So as a procurement team, we really weren't used to selling ourselves and going out there, and they weren't used to receiving that from us. So I think there was, a little bit of apprehension, few stepped on toes when we first started reaching out, thinking, oh, you're coming into control or you're stepping into something that you don't understand. So there was some trust building that really had to happen through reiterating that we're there as a source of support, not as trying to police you or get into your business. So finally, after all this planning, we got to a point where we could have a meeting, and we met with Julie and her team. We were so excited and we were prepared and we had a plan, and we're going to do so many things for university and for Julie's team. And we got to the meeting, and this is not a direct quote, but in essence, she was like, your data doesn't match my data, and I don't understand where you're getting these numbers. And like, I just think there's errors here. And we were like, crushed. Like, so I think the big learning was that, we really had to recognize up front, this is not going to be a straight line. This is going to have highs and lows, and we're going to have to pivot a lot. So while this was a little bit of a lesson in humility for our team, we did regroup, and we were able to start even smaller, take down a smaller chunk. And we've been able to find success with her team and others working in other areas, like for efficiency. But I'll get into that a little bit later on, talking about some of the success.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for that overview. I understand how crushing it can be when you sort of put yourself on the line, you're feeling really excited, but also what a gift to get that feedback. So I know we'll dig into that more. Adam, over to you. I know in our prep session you had some great perspective here too. So
a lot of what Julie Bree said is absolutely true. I would say as we're going through the transformation and procurement here in the city of Baltimore, most people, when they look at procurement from outside of procurement, there's a perception, and the perception is usually not positive at times. And it's either that you send something to procurement and it goes into the giant black hole of procurement that never comes out. Procurement officers are paper pushers. or that procurement is a department of no. I want something, no. I need this, no. Perception is reality. And what we've been doing here in procurement in the city of Baltimore is we're not a department of no. We're a department of no but. No, we can't do it the way you want, but there's enough smart people sitting around the room, we can noodle our way through it to get to the correct answer. A lot of times with procurement is when I'm working with Berkey and general services or police or fire or whoever, they're not doing and ordering things because it's just a whim. They have a mission to fulfill. And my mission is to make sure that they are fulfilling their mission. In Baltimore, we don't have customers anymore because what's the old axiom? The customer is always right. Well, we all know that the customer isn't always right. Mm-hmm. Here in Baltimore, we have clients because the client depends upon me to use my professional experience to help them achieve the end that they're trying to get to. So my job isn't to tell Berkey and DGS how to do their job or what they need. My job is to help them get there. And as Bree was saying, it's building that relationship. And I'll start early. I know you love this term, Mariel. Everybody in procurement now has laptops. Hopefully you've changed over. We have a very technical term, and forgive me, some of you, if you get offended, and that is the procurement officers in the city of Baltimore are required to unask their chair. They need to get up out of their chair, take their laptop, and go see their clients to help them understand. And that's just not because of I want them to. It's also, again, perception. If I call somebody and say, you need to come visit me in my office, I'm calling somebody to the principal's office. On the other hand, if I say, Berkey, I'm grabbing my laptop, I'm coming to you, to your office to help you, it's a different tone. And that really has been the basis of what we're changing, building staff, changing our attitudes, and how are we going to support everybody so that they know we're not a paper pusher, we're a business partner to them, and that we're adding value to everything that they're doing.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like there's such an advantage in going and actually meeting with people on their own turf. Yeah, as you know, working on the sticker version of that slogan. Maybe we'll send it out with the recap. Awesome. Well, Brett, what's been your experience here? I know in supporting many public agencies and especially in higher ed, you have your own share. So I'd be curious to hear what you see as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And while we don't get involved with the intercommunications of your departments and your procurement teams, our value is simply to provide that we're an extra tool for you and your end users when you go out to buy things. And some, confusion may start at the departmental level. So if a department reaches out directly to me and to us without involving procurement, they may have seen us at a trade show or a conference. They've heard of Sourcewell. Hey, they have hundreds of awarded contracts with suppliers that we use all the time. And they reach out to us directly. Oftentimes they think they can buy something directly from Sourcewell, that we have the products and services available. There may be some confusion around contract language, about how the contracts work. Many conversations have started with an end user thinking, they're buying directly from us, and they might be confused about that process. But ultimately, we're a tool for you, and then we just want that to be communicated to your end users to make that relationship and better. So it opens up more conversation about time savings, about cost savings, and oftentimes those can be good and happy conversations. So yeah, that's my feedback.
Awesome. Well, I want to flip it over now to folks joining from maybe the other side of the table or who are in those offices that Adam's team and Bree's team are working with and visiting, and ask you, what are the biggest challenges you face when working with procurement for a purchase, and can you kind of walk us through that experience? So yeah, Julie, do you want to kick us off here?
Yeah, so one of the biggest headaches I think in procurement is playing the waiting game for approvals and kind of navigating that dreaded no. I feel like that's what we always get. It's kind of like driving a car with the brakes on. You're not getting anywhere fast. And
Mhm.
so you kind of dread even having to engage with procurement, just based on no or flat out being told no. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges we face, like in our area, being responsive and is very important. There are often a lot of emergencies that we're dealing with, and we have to get to yes very quickly. It can impact construction project timelines, for goods or services that we're trying to procure. So time is always the essence for us. We're just trying to get to yes. And we feel like the biggest hurdle is all of the approval levels that it has to go through or being told no and it taking forever. So I think that's probably the biggest challenge that we face. It kind of feels like procurement doesn't want to work with us at some times. And so trying to figure out how we move through that, how we work together to get to yes is probably the biggest thing for us in our area. Um, yeah, I would just say that, Bree's team, when you start building that relationship, it helps you to get to yes faster. And I think that's what we started experiencing and all of these situations where we continually got no, or we need to go back and look at this. And, it was taking 2 weeks for an approval time. I think that um, some of the efficiencies that we'll talk about shows how we decrease that time to get to a yes quicker.
Yeah, that's great. I definitely empathize. I think there can be a lot of misconceptions as Adam, and Bree also highlighted around, hey, what's this experience going to feel like? But those have to also be either refuted or reinforced by your lived experience. Brike, what's your experience been?
Well, I can come up with a couple examples, which I will at the end of this answer. But I kind of figured out just that the biggest challenge is finding the right leadership style in the management, as I referred to. Some previous CPOs that I worked, they had a more rigid top-down approach, which made the collaboration difficult, and we couldn't even understand the no behind the ask. So we're having a very different approach with Adam, and I would like to give two specific examples, pre and post Adam era, that could resonate with people. So one of the things that we are in charge as Department of General Services is the firehouses. They have overhead doors, they open, they respond to a fire at one particular day on a Friday night that we got a call that the door is not opening. And we realized that there was an issue with the contract that we could not actually give the work. So as a department director, I have a choice now, right? I'm not gonna fix the door, so we probably may not be able to respond to that fire, and somebody might die because there is a procurement problem. We can't go to that vendor, or I'm just going to go ask the vendor to do the job, which then they will have to pay the price in return because we've done an unauthorized procurement. Now that small business might be affected because they paid overtime, people, parts, and whatnot, but yet I cannot pay them on time because of a governmental bureaucracy, and then we don't have the relationship with the procurement officer. So we were using the small businesses, which we're trying to grow, and then we were trying to grow our city. We want to give businesses, but then our regulations, and then who actually uses that regulation does not understand the end goal. Cutscene, Adam. We had a custodial vendor tapped out. Like one day called me, just like, I can't pay payroll. I'm not coming to your buildings tomorrow. So I called Adam. I can't even remember what time it was, and he picked up right away. And it's like, Adam, we got a problem. Houston, we have a problem, right? My custodian people is like, they're not gonna provide janitorial services. It's a city hall. Like I'm just like elected officials. What am I gonna do? So we put heads together. He wasn't just like, okay, now I know the rules of how I can navigate you while you're not gonna have a drop in service. And what are we gonna do exactly? And who are we gonna reform? And how are we gonna do it? Sometimes we're gonna shoot and apologize later. Sometimes we're gonna do this. But he was an incredible partner in just like he humanized my situation. He stepped out of his soapbox, but no buts, right? Comma, ... fill in the blank. He was at my level. Okay, that's the problem, right? You can't have service gaps. That's going to be a huge issue. So this is how we're going to work. He mobilized his team. We got up to a board meeting like the next morning, had an emergency procurement in place. So stark contrast in somebody's style that sets the tone from the top as a CPO to his team and everybody else, right? This is how I'm going to work. So now everything comes downstream, has a much better way of being resolved as opposed to the attitude. So biggest challenge, in my opinion, is sitting down and seeing eye to eye with the CPO and says like, do we understand our mission and how, if we align there, we're aligned at the interest base. If we're aligned at the interest base, everything can be solved. And that's what I'm experiencing with Adam's leadership. So I mean, big department challenge was a style, and we're very fortunate to have him at the helm because he's bringing a fresh change and look at everything.
Awesome. Well, thank you both. Now, I think you've kind of teed this up for us already, but we want to put these two sides together and go from the sort of like maybe initial conversations, initial rough starts, and misconceptions over to like, how did you start to really take action to improve the relationships and strengthen the collaboration within your organizations? So I'm gonna let procurement speak first and share a little bit about some of the things that you did where you've tried to improve relationships with your departments. And then we're gonna double check in with your department leaders here on the line and hear how those things landed and get their perspective as well. So yeah, Adam, do you wanna kick us off here?
Sure. We're going, I've said, is under a procurement transformation, which is people, policy, and technology. And as we've been working on that, and I actually present in 2 weeks to the board to give them an update. Some of the items we've been looking to do, being a major metropolitan city, we do have small minority women business-owned goals. We have living wage, prevailing wage, which I'm sure many people do. The process originally had those organizations at the end of the process. So our end users would go through the entire procurement process, then we had to let them do their job, which would slow them down. We're currently working on getting them into the beginning of the process. So when the end user starts the procurement, they get their bite at the apple before it ever hits the procurement shop. Because now it hits us, we have to send it to them. They take 3 weeks to review. The end user doesn't see that. They just know it's sitting in procurement. As like I said, it's fallen into the black hole. So we've made that change. Another major change that we've been doing besides, like I said, going out and visiting our clients is we've set up meetings with the procurement officers and the teams that they're supporting. They meet either weekly or bi-weekly to discuss what's going on. And then for the entire city, we have a procurement priorities meeting where each agency submits in advance their top 5 procurement items of what they're looking for and what they need to get. And then we can respond to them saying, this is where it is in the process, this is where it is, this is there. The directors, such as Berkey, can go in and say, I don't want that, I want this, to his staff. It's all done on SharePoint, so everybody can see it live in real time. We have also, so we meet once a month with that, rain or shine, it doesn't matter. We always have those meetings. We're also working on some internal items to get ourselves more organized, where we're working with, excuse me, some project management software. So we can track every purchase order, every requisition, everything that's going on, so that when there are questions, once we get out of beta testing, we can actually make this forward facing. So if somebody in an agency says, where's my PO, where's my requisition, where are we in the process? The agency fiscal officer, the agency director will be able to go on, quickly sort it, and see all the notes, which could have been, I sent this back to somebody because I need more information, or the form wasn't filled out, or something of that sort. And they can then reply saying, sent back to you on Tuesday, you have it, let's move forward. And we're trying to work through that way. But a lot of it is, like Berkey mentioned and Julie mentioned and Bree mentioned, it's that personal interaction. I personally think COVID killed a lot of that interaction, where you might even have somebody in cubes using instant messages when they can just stand up. In my office, we have all hands on decks Tuesdays. Every member of the procurement team has to come into the office. And then once a month, we have a all hands meeting where we have one large staff meeting and we discuss everything that's going on. Another thing that we've done internally, which I think benefits our end users, is we have what we call the Baltimore Buyers Club. And that is the Baltimore procurement officers once a month meet by themselves. Management is not involved. We're not allowed to be there. No manager, no supervisors, just the procurement officers. So they can discuss items that are going on. They can discuss trends. And more importantly, is they can come back to myself and my leadership team speaking in one voice, saying, hey, we're noticing a problem here where there's going to be a log jam, or we need more resources because we can't provide the service that we want to. And that's been a big help. That's what we're working on. And it's ongoing. It's nonstop. In our project plan, that is continuous along with training and development. And I can't say that enough. Everybody on my staff has to earn their certification. And we are pushing that, and we want you to be there because that's teaching and telling our people that we know what we're doing. I just finished my taxes. Joe doesn't do my taxes. My taxes are done by a CPA firm who've been in business, who meet everything. Because if I go to jail, somebody's sitting next to me. But it's bringing that. I'm not going to anybody. I'm going to a CPA. You're not building my house. It's going to be a licensed architect. It's not going to be somebody who mows lawns for a living. It's that important to have.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely hear you on just building a lot more transparency, visibility into the process, both with meetings, like giving people a chance to gather, and then also the technology of just like, where is that thing? Whose desk is it sitting on? What's the next step? And do we have a record there? Building the relationships, definitely a key theme. I think that we've heard so far as well, of like really building those partnerships, getting your butt out of your seat, going physically to like be on the client's turf, and coming in and investing in those relationships, and then building the expertise, right? Of like, hey, how do I serve this client as a procurement professional, but from a place, as you said, where you have expertise and you're trusted with that expertise, the same way you would trust your CPA. Hopefully you won't be sitting next to each other in jail, but I think it's a fair point. Awesome. Well, thanks for those points. Bree, how about you? What have been some of the things that you've implemented? I know you kind of teed up this initial kind of bumpy first interaction, but you left us kind of hanging with this like cliffhanger of like, oh, okay, like where did it go from there? So would love to hear more about that.
Yeah, there was definitely light at the end of the tunnel, and not to sound cliche, but it was communication, right? So after our initial stumbles, we regrouped, we started off smaller. We really focused on things like training and communication. And I think what Burke said is true. I think it does come down to a little bit of the personality of your leader, and I'm very transparent with my team. It's probably, I'm not a very good politician. I have a pretty good glass face, and I overshare things. Like I do that with my team. But I think it does really come from an authentic, genuine place of that we're all in this together. And the more that we know and the more that we can knowledge share, the better off we all are. Working in a higher ed institution, we have to think that we have intelligent people around us who can, read between the lines and see what things are going on, and leaving people in the dark really doesn't have any benefit. So we really started a big push on communication from our procurement office. We started publishing a monthly newsletter. We would feature, one of our staff members in those newsletters. We're trying to give personality to the people who are behind the emails that you're getting sent. We started hosting a monthly drop-in virtual Q&A. So we have experts there from across our full procure to pay chain. I make appearances on there every couple of months and answer some higher level questions and let people know where our roadmap is and what we're planning and some things going on. And it's been wildly successful. We get over 100 people every month tuning into that, which is great considering the amount of people that we have, buying. I really try to apply the theory of the 5 whys, and I've tried to teach this to my team as well. And this is a theory that was developed by Sakechi Toyota, the founder of Toyota, and I probably didn't say that name correctly. But in essence, it's if you want to get to the root of the problem, you ask why 5 times. And so that's what we really started doing. We started asking a lot of questions as well. We started gathering feedback. How are we doing? We noticed, you know, a high reliance on our P card program instead of using our e-procurement marketplace for some of our suppliers. So, you know, we reached out, we asked a lot of questions about business process, barriers to using the e-procurement program. And what we learned really allowed us to offer targeted training. And we started consulting with departments on, you know, their paper kind of based business processes and how we could replicate that in the e-procurement system through an approval process. So we moved from about 30% compliance to 100% compliance using our e-procurement marketplace suppliers within a year. So that was really huge for us. We started having bi-weekly meetings with Julie and her team, as well as other key departments that we share with. And we got to know each other as people rather than hiding behind those emails. One area that we dove into, Julie and I, was in the construction contracting process, developing, working with general counsel and our contracts team to develop some standard templates for some of our trades agreements and working towards that for our construction agreements, which, you know, to her point, what she was saying, that removed a lot of the legal review and a lot of the barriers to be able to get contracts in place a lot faster. So I'm really proud of that. We developed also a written workflow that could be followed that, you know, we could share with our project managers, design and construction teams so that they would know the right path, so that Julie was kept in the loop, I was kept in the loop, our CFO was kept in the loop whenever there was new projects coming on board. So everybody was informed and everybody knew what the system was. And that really helped out. The biggest success in my books, though, at least from my perspective, was we started using a program to actually visualize and roadmap their sourcing needs ahead of time. Historically, when it came to our maintenance and operations trade solicitations, they were the most numerous at USF, and they took up a lot of our time. You know, again, we have a small team for as large a university as we are. And they tended to catch us off guard. We always had to extend contracts to allow time for solicitation. So we started sharing a platform that gave visibility for both sides, exactly where your solicitation is in the process. And it allowed us to roadmap out basically till the end of the next contract cycle. And we started really being intentional about the length of term of our contracts so that we weren't overwhelming ourselves with having to solicit everything, you know, on a 5-year cycle. So in my opinion, you know, the relationship that we've been able to build really extends beyond the day-to-day. It's allowed us to be on the front line, knowing what's happening at the university. And as a result, you know, procurement benefits as well, because we get to know when new projects are coming, we get to know when new technologies are coming out and available. And so we have a direct line now to some of the biggest decisions happening at our university. We have a better pulse than I think we've ever had. And so that, you know, tit for tat relationship, you know, we share information on a casual basis too. And that's been really beneficial for us.
Awesome. Yeah, I think again, those themes of like building the relationship, good communication, and just transparency. Again, the like, what are the steps? So no surprises on either side. Like, can we map this out? Can we have some visibility into process timelines? Again, so we know where things are at, and we also know what's coming up and how to tackle it together. Makes a ton of sense. Well, I feel like this is a little almost like the honeymooners game, right? Where you ask like one partner first, then you flip it back over. And we're like, okay, we've heard from procurement, but now want to turn it back over to Julie and Berke representing more the departments around how these changes that were just described have impacted how you work with procurement. And I know it's not listed in the question, but don't want to also imply that this is procurement's sole responsibility to kind of like be responsible for the relationship. So if there's anything you feel like you had to change or adjust that you want to add in too, would welcome that perspective. So Berke, do you want to kick us off?
Yes. Well, I want to put together some of the narrative that's being discussed with Adam and Bree. And one thing that I think we've also taken the approach of un-essing our chairs, now that just like the Gemba in the Toyota production systems go do the walk has changed with un-essing our chairs to go see it. So we wanted to also to level with what the procurement needs to go through, understanding their processes so that we could ask the right questions. And we are a big fan of asking whys. And because first thing that before we even ask the question, we need to be able to understand that we're not questioning you or your authority. We're just asking questions to get to it. So, and you can only build a relationship through repetition. And then you understand that there's no malintent behind this questioning. It's just getting to a degree. And so two things that really happened. One, obviously, the initiative of us constantly meeting and then talking about our procurement details, and then larger, more senior group only focusing on what's urgent, the top 5 was wonderful. But what Adam brought in is just like, I have dedicated personnel that sits in my shop, like permanently as their chairs in my shop that report to Adam, that they're now becoming experts in everything fleet, because fleet is a very large operations. We have 5,000 pieces of equipment. We spend many millions of dollars a year. So it's a big drain on Adam's time. And he is creating a portfolio approach of buyers and procurement officers that are just like being dedicated. Hopefully over time, they're going to be rotating and getting knowledge across the city so they can plug holes in there. And that allowed us to be able to ask whys in these questions. One of the reasons why do we find ourselves all the time having to put emergency procurement? And one thing that we realized that burn rate, we just like burn faster than anticipated, and then we ran out of money. Now we need to go to an emergency procurement because adding change order takes time. I need to do that now, and I need to add money. That's the way to do emergency procurement. But the sheer number of emergency procurement was very overwhelming. The city administrator pulled us aside and said, hey, you got to slow it down. You need to figure out. So now we have to ask them, like, why is this happening? And why? We came down to a situation where most of the time those whys relate to somebody saying, well, I've been doing this for a while, and this is why. And then we get to this like, okay, that's not a reason why we should do it. Let's bring the attitude to do different ways. And democratizing the data, understanding those burn rates coming up, and say like, hey, okay, you're 2 months in, 20% of the contract, 80% spent, flag, right? You have a meeting in 2 weeks. Let's talk about it. If we need to do a change order now, right, we could put that in so that it can be processed before we run out of the money. And doing so, right now we're planning 6 to 18 months ahead, and that allowed us to be able to execute 6 to 7 key contracts early, well before they become urgent. And I think that's a huge shift in how we work, because now, previously, what we call a black box, we were thinking like, I just sent the thing, change order. I don't understand why I can't. I mean, just like, what is it that it's just going to approve already, right? So we had to also, I want to say, unask our check to go and understand just like what the buyer have to do. I mean, this is one, like Brisa just like maybe 10-person group supporting 50,000 contracts, right? But we are just like so self-centered. My contract is the most important, and I do not understand why Adam teams cannot move on this one. So making like the data visible, democratized, and being able to ask questions without taking the personality out of it, been a big initiative that just like really stick and helping us do better.
Awesome. Yeah, it's good. I'm glad that slogan, Adam, has caught on. It seems like that mentality is in the air in the city of Baltimore, which is great. All right, Julie, what about your experience? What's changed from the very beginning, and how have some of the things that Bree discussed shifted the relationship? And is there anything that you've found that you've had to adjust or change in your approach as well?
Yeah, so I'm all about swapping the fire extinguisher for a roadmap and trying to get ahead of the game, having that proactive approach. And that's really what we wanted. I think that we had to shift our mindset on how we perceived procurement. And when Bree and her team started reaching out and really took an interest in understanding our department and our needs, I could see that start happening with my team. It was like, okay, they're really trying to understand what we're doing here. They're trying to understand the urgencies we have and how complicated our departments are when we're trying to procure things, within a very tight timeline or time frame, or because we need something done right away due to budget constraints. So the initial understanding our department was huge. Our mindset started to shift, and that they really wanted to help us. And then all of the other things that we kind of partnered with her area on to put in place, like the monthly meetings that were established, them actually meeting with us face to face, and maybe not even through like virtual, and actually coming over and visiting with our teams, helped kind of change that conversation and that dynamic, and that trust started to build, and those relationships started to build. So we knew that we could work and partner and collaborate on how can we get to yes quicker. It's no longer that they're just trying to be a barrier to what we're trying to do. They really are there to help. They really are trying to support us in the best way possible. So we definitely had to change that mindset, but a lot of what they did on their end with reaching out to us and understanding our needs and just kind of building that relationship initially with us was huge and went a long way in us, building this partnership and collaboration that we have now, where we are actually getting to yes. We're not being reactive in what we're doing. We're being more proactive. We have that roadmap that Bree spoke to, and we can get to yes quicker.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much. I want to shift gears a little bit now and hone in on the role of cooperative procurement in helping procurement and departments work together more effectively. So most of us here are probably aware of cooperative procurement. As a very quick recap, it's when public entities are able to purchase from a contract that another public entity has created. And it's a win-win for agencies and for businesses both. Agencies can get what they need faster, and suppliers get to shorten their sales cycles and reduce their costs of selling to the public sector. So big efficiency gains on both sides. And I want to ask everyone how cooperative procurement has really factored in or helped you improve this procurement and department end user relationship. So Bree, maybe we'll kick it off with you.
Yeah, having the ability to access and use cooperatives has helped us tremendously. Our procurement team is not unique in higher ed, that we're undersized to serve the needs of our community. Our IT department has more people just helping to manage their contracts than we do in our team to manage the entire university, and we still process their contracts. So as much as we try to be proactive, there's just times where, we can't get there soon enough, or that there is an emergency need, or, maybe the correct sourcing steps weren't followed. Somebody goes a little bit rogue and, does all of these interviews and decides on a vendor. And then they're like, yeah, I want to buy this. And it comes across our desk and we go, using tools like Pavilion, we can help to empower departments for their own sourcing, because we can't be everywhere at all times. So instead, of having to help the sourcing events, we can teach departments how to use Pavilion, and it's one login for everything. They can now, instead of having to go to each different site and create logins, they can go to one place. And it's just more streamlined to get to yes. Cooperative contracts have been also able to help us negotiate prices. I think there's a conception that if you bid something yourself, you can drive a better deal. And sometimes that may be true. But we did a recent bid and we compared the pricing proposal that we got to a cooperative agreement. And our pricing proposal was $100 per hour more than what we could get through the cooperative. So I really think in a volatile economy, when you have some of these contracts that have been in place for a while, you could really benefit by taking a look at cooperatives before deciding to source nowadays. And you have that economy of scale when it comes to buying power as well. So, I really think it's about empowering and about education. If we can't be everywhere at once, if we can educate people how to manage it for themselves, and then also make it easy and accessible and understandable, that helps departments to get to where they need to go even faster. And it's a lot easier, yes, for us from a compliance standpoint. So
yeah. Julie, Bricke, Adam, anything to add? And I know Brett, I want to get your perspective too.
I'll add in is everything with what Bree said, but also your cooperatives, it's not just the contracts. The co-ops themselves are a business partner. Sourcewell is my business partner. I have done with Sourcewell for 15, 20 years, And they are considered, for me, they're a business partner. They come to me, I come to them. I have no problems picking up the phone and going to them and saying, hey, I need something, chemicals for water treatment plants. Or, hey, I had a conversation with Sourcewell last year, which they're working through because they're a large organization. The city of Baltimore has very specific items for small minority women businesses. And we need to have those included. And as we use a Sourcewell contract or a piggyback contract, a lot of times that gets waived. But I can work with my business partner and say, hey, maybe you can't get exactly what I need, but can you get some language in there? So when I go before an elected official and say, we're using a Sourcewell contract, the first thing out of their mouth is, well, is it going to local Baltimore business? What about small minority businesses? I know there's a national trend. We're not part of it. I mean, we're not changing with our elected officials, but it gives me the ability to say, yes, I've had these conversations. Yes, they're working on it. Yes, they're doing it. So they are our business partners. And again, also using Pavilion and going to Sourcewell, it saves us time, energy, and money. There are many things which people don't understand, no matter the size of your entity, that it might not be in your best interest to try and do your own solicitation. We're using these national cooperatives, and especially Sourcewell, for a lot of things that we do, saves us time. If OEM parts and equipment that we need for our fleet shop, I can do it, but I'm not going to get better prices than I'm going to get off of Sourcewell, and for a variety of things. And Berkay underplayed it. The city of Baltimore's fleet shop is about 125 or 130 bays, and they take care of everything from your sedan to your electric car to a 20-ton garbage truck. It's a huge operation, and to try and get parts and equipment and oil and everything, for us to do it on our own would make no sense. But by reaching out, using Pavilion, using Sourcewell, and saying we need this, it just makes it so much faster and easier. And I'm not impeding him from fulfilling his mission. Because if you're in a city and the garbage isn't collected because the garbage trucks are down, because there aren't parts, the citizens complain real quickly, and nobody wants to say, well, procurement said, and it helps us move forward.
Great. Berkay or Julie, anything to add? Otherwise, we'll kick it over to Brett too, because I know you have a lot of experience here too.
I can add something real quick here. I think it cuts time. Time is money, right? That's just very clear. And it also, we get better pricing through vendors that through national contracts. It's very clear. But I was like also give examples. I'll give you one example that we used a cooperative procurement for an elevator contract that started and finished in 5 months. At the same time, for other set of elevators that a similar solicitation been put out, not finalized, still pending, started in late 2022. So that should tell you, tell you all that you need to know. I get better pricing, faster delivery. They're already contact serving those elevators, whereas I'm fine. And then this is not procurement's fault. I mean, it's just so hard to find. We're in old buildings in an old city, an underinvested, high deferred maintenance backlog, and some of the stuff that just like really is hard to find that's servicing. So us trying to take on that our own is taking a lot of time, and then we immediately contrast it with taking another approach. If we do the same thing through a co-op, what results we can get, and results speak for themselves. Period.
Awesome.
Well, Mariel, I think we chose the right panelists for today's conversation. That feedback, it couldn't be more spot on, and it means a lot coming from you all as our business partners, as Adam mentioned. And reflecting on, what Bree said, cooperative purchasing organizations, ultimately, we streamline that process for you, the procurement process from start to finish. So significantly reducing that administrative burden, if you're short-staffed or you have needs, you have emergency needs, like a garage door on a firehouse, and also by leveraging that collective buying power to negotiate those better terms and pricing. So, resulting in time savings, resulting in cost savings as well. And as we tie it into this conversation today and how it impacts your relationship between end users and procurement is when you're talking about saving time and you're talking about saving money, that gets people's attention, and it starts some really good productive conversations. It's not the oh, we ran into the no again. Hey, I found a way where we can save some time and we can save some money and get what we need. And when you start a conversation that way, I think it yields great results. So from examples, just being here in Florida for the week and meeting with procurement teams and end users. Yesterday, I was at a university, and around the table, I had procurement staff, I had facilities, construction staff, I had a staff member from housing and student affairs, as well as the IT department, all around one table talking about cooperative purchasing and having those conversations with those end users and seeing the light bulb turn on, seeing their eyes widen, looking at our list of awarded suppliers and knowing that, hey, we can use this avenue to get what we need in a shorter amount of time. It's really eye-opening for them, and also fosters just that better collaboration and communication between you and your end users. So.
Totally. Well, thanks all for sharing about your experience. Since some in the chat and I know on the panel have also mentioned Pavilion, and not everyone on this call might be familiar, I just want to show you very quickly how the platform works. So just going to pull up a demo here. This is what Pavilion looks like. So as I shared before, it's a free service that public entity users can tap into to find suppliers who are available on cooperative contracts for what you need to buy. And so I can type in what I'm looking for, just like how you'd run, a Google search. In this case, I'm going to pretend to be a user from Palm Beach County. And let's say I'm looking for automated license plate recognition software. So I can go ahead and type that in, and then I hit enter, and I can see suppliers on cooperative contracts that are based on my entity's compliance needs and preferences. So as you may have seen earlier, we have over 100,000 contracts on Pavilion from national purchasing cooperatives, state organizations, and local entities. And putting all of those contracts in one place really makes it easy for public entities to discover suppliers that can meet their needs through cooperative contracts. And as everyone's talked about, that saves a significant amount of time and expense. So normally you'd have to figure out first, which suppliers can actually meet your needs, then go to different websites, find their contracts, or call or email agencies to get a hold of them. But here I can see a list right away. So I see GTechna there is the top result here for our search. They're a digital platform for parking enforcement. Great. I can dive into their contracts. And I see actually, a Sourcewell contract shows up there. So I can go ahead and click into it as an example. And here I get to see an overview of the contract, the supplier. I can go straight to the Sourcewell website here, or I can click the documents section, and I can jump directly into documents like the RFP, the contract. And again, our goal here is just to save procurement and departments a ton of time from having to track all of these things down. So now let's say the contract meets all the requirements for this purchase. I want to get in touch, request a quote. I'm interested in getting some more information or moving forward. I can go ahead and send the supplier, GTechna, an email straight through Pavilion. Or I can give their public sector rep a call. So we have contact info there if you prefer to kick off a conversation just by picking up the phone. So again, that's an email thread between you and the supplier. It's not like a special messaging service on Pavilion. But again, just trying to make it easier and faster to connect. And then our team will also make sure you get a fast response. I will just add, we also have a whole suite of features that are free that simplify compliance for departments too. So you can add your entity's contracts to Pavilion. I think maybe it was Gail in the chat from ASU mentioned, hey, her process is first, let's check and see, do we have a contract we can use? Are we already piggybacking on a co-op? Great, let's hop on that one. So if you want your own contracts to show up, we can make that easy to do in search. And then if departments need to go down the cooperative purchasing route, you can also pre-approve cooperatives that you're a member of. So if you purchase from Sourcewell often, for example, you can kind of pre-approve and make sure that your departments see those contracts from those sources first when they're searching. And then finally, we're working on some new features that really help departments figure out the most efficient way to get what they need without having to be a purchasing expert. So what many of you flagged as like, hey, I just want some transparency. Like I have this need, where do I go? What's the right path? We're working on some really exciting technology to support that, again, totally for free. So I know we're at time. We'll leave it open for another maybe minute to answer. I think we have just one question that came in, which I'll invite panelists to kind of take a look at. And then in the meantime, I'll put up our contact info here if you'd like to get in touch. And we also have a link to a survey, which I'll go ahead and add in the chat. If you could just take 30 seconds to share your thoughts with us, helps us improve future events as well. So I've just dropped that in the chat. And if you can take a couple seconds to respond. And then it looks like there's one question from Adrian who looks like, oh man, is about like navigating bad vendor relationships and how that impacts like the, I know, I was like, this is not a fast like 30-second one probably. But if anyone wants to tackle it, I know a lot of folks have to drop and we'll wrap very shortly.
I would say
I'll
document,
talk with
document,
Adrian
document.
offline on that.
Yeah, okay,
reach-
great.
I'll reach out to him.
Perfect. Okay. Adam, please connect. And yeah, I hear you, Burke, on like document. Well, a huge thank you to all of our panelists, to Brett and Sourcewell for helping to put this together.
Also
Really
want to thank
amazing
you,
conversation.
Mary. I also want to thank you on behalf of Sourcewell. Thank you to Pavilion for helping put this together. I didn't get a chance to thank you at the beginning, so I want to say thank you on behalf of Sourcewell as well. So thank you.
We had a blast. Still so much more that we could share. And thank you all for those that were participating in the chat along the way. We'll send out a recording soon. And yeah, we'll see if we can get that campaign on the sticker kickstarted. Stay tuned. All right, y'all. Have a great rest of your week. Thanks again for your
Thank
time.
you. Bye-bye.
See you later.
See ya.